بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. In one of the webinars that we used to give through Naseej Academy platform, today we will talk about a new approach that will help in teaching and learning, and it gives an equal opportunity for all students to succeed. This approach called the Universal Design for Learning, and the title of our webinar will be Applying Universal Design for Learning Principles in Information Science. This approach enables instructors as well to utilize different ways to keep students motivated. In this webinar, we'll talk about the identifying of the principle for the universal design for learning. Also, we will define who is the expert learner and the expert educator. Also, we will compare the traditional lesson plan to that one that follows by the universal design for learning. To talk about this subject, we are so lucky to have Dr. Jihan Muhammad. She raised and educated and also had her master and PhD and also professor degree in the United States. She is a professor at William Peterson University in New Jersey, USA. She has a doctorate in educational technology from New Jersey City University. Also, she is a library practitioner and educator. She teaches technology and library management and instructional design. Dr. Muhammad, I think she is one of the unique and distinguished experts in the field of education, specifically in library and information science. I'll not take too much time from the webinar, the floor is yours, Dr. Jihan, and I welcome again all the attendees and tell them that just wait until the end of the webinar and please shower us with your questions and we will be happy to answer it. And please write it down because this will give us time just to collect all the questions. Thank you for attending and thank you, Dr. Jihan Muhammad, for accepting our invitation to give this webinar. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you for that lovely presentation. I will share my screen right now. I have to unshare to unmute. First of all, welcome to UDL. For Information Science Practitioner. I'm so glad that you have joined me today for this presentation. As Dr. Abdullah mentioned, I am Egyptian, but I was educated in the United States. I teach in the master degree program for library science at William Patterson University. Actually, Mr. Saeed suggested that I give this presentation in Arabic, but I opted out for two reasons. My attempt to translate the technical and academic terms may not be proficient, and Dr. Abdullah and I thought that presenting new concepts in their original language will help you better if you want to expand your research and knowledge about them. Otherwise, you will always be reading secondhand translation, and I hope that is okay with you. Please feel free to use the chat during this time. I will ask you a couple of questions, maybe two questions during the presentation. So I will ask you to put your answers in the chat and I will try to keep an eye on it as much as I can. Universal design in general came from the architecture world. This iconic cartoon shows how physical accessibility benefits students by not starting the stairs. I don't know if it is clear. It's a cartoon of a worker at school who is trying to clear the stairs for the students that get into the schools. And then there is that student on a wheelchair who is keep asking him to clear the ramp so he can go as well. But the worker is saying, you have to wait until I clear the stairs for those students, and then I would clear the ramp for you. His answer was, if you clear the ramp, everybody would go. So this is the idea of universal design, to design something that is accessible for all regarding of their abilities. By not starting with the stairs and instead clearing the ramp, the building will be instantly accessible to all the students waiting outside. This cartoon tells us as educators, we need to change our mindset that accommodation is a way to benefit all the students rather than specialized support for some students. The problem is that most curricula are designed and developed as if students are all the same. And the most common approach to curriculum design, as we know, is that to address the need of so-called average students. Of course, this average student is a myth, um, a statistical artifact, not corresponding to any individual at all. But because so much of the curriculum and teaching methods employed in most schools are based on the needs of this mythical average students, they are also full of unnecessary barriers to learning. This is the image that shows how removing barriers will help everyone. I'm trying to use more than one mode of explanation so I can be an advocate of UDL myself. In the first image, it is assumed that everyone will benefit from the same support. So all the students who wants to watch the game are giving the same support equally. But as you can see, some of them can't see very well. So the second image is individuals are giving different support to make it possible for them to have equal access to the game. They received differentiated treatment. But of course, as we know with differentiation, it takes time and effort, and you have to address every student. The third image, all three can see the game without any support or accommodation because we removed the barrier. The barrier has been removed so they can see, all can see the game. And this is what UDL is all about, removing the barriers to learning. According to the Center of Applied Special Technology, CAST is the acronym. And by the way, CAST, if you Google that, it's everything about UDL. Anything that you want to know about Universal Design for Learning, it's on the CAST website. Universal Design for Learning principles diverts the focus from the student disability to the curriculum disability. When we eliminate the barriers in the design of learning environments, it will lead to better learning outcomes of the diverse population of learners that we have today in our classrooms. UDL addresses three areas of learning that deal with recognition, skills and strategies, motivation, and prioritizing. Or in other words, the what, how, and why of learning. The main focus of UDL is to maximize learning. So we all are educators. We all want our students to learn. So we do that by taking into consideration every student's background, interests, strength, and abilities. UDL provide a blueprint for creating flexible goals and methods and materials and assessment that accommodate learner differences. Universal does not imply a single optimal solution for everyone. Instead, it is meant to underscore the need for multiple approaches to meet the need of diverse learners. Let me give you some examples for each one of these principles. Multiple means of engagement. How do we engage students? Think about the difference it makes if you survey students about their interests and incorporate that into your instruction. Or if you stated the learning goals in a relevant way to the students, something that they could understand instead of those learning goals that are mentioned in the book or in the course handbook. Second principle, multiple means of representation. Think of how you present your lessons or lectures. How about if you provide lecture slides, a recorded video that your students can listen to on the way home, or if your textbook is available as an ebook, so students can read it on their phones while waiting online or maybe in the doctor's office. The third principle is the multiple means of action and expression. Think about how many students will miss assignments if you provided calendars and a checklist that help them track tasks. We use Blackboard here in the university, and the calendar is one big part of the course. How about if you allow them to show their learning through a variety of formats, such as presentations, videos, or audio recording, instead of always have to write papers? This picture shows the UDL and the curriculum. While UDL and differentiation are both strategies to reach all students, there are some key differences. Differentiation is a way for us or for educators to make a lesson more accessible to a group of students that isn't already being reached by adding options for those learners. Differentiation is included in a lesson plan in the final stages of planning. UDL principles are included from the beginning of a lesson or beginning of the lesson planning, back at the level of identifying a learning goal. UDL principles are designed to reach all individual learners, whereas differentiation includes learner on the fringe at the end of the process. This illustration is from the University of Georgia, and it shows the difference between a ramp added when needed and what happens when we keep adding as we need, the second one, and how the building looks like. And finally, what if all of these accommodations were added to the design from the start, which is the last building, and how it looks really nice and beautiful, and everything seems to go together. So barriers to learning. What are some barriers to learning? Not having enough background knowledge or the required skills for a lesson. Not knowing the next steps or not receiving feedback about their process, which can be difficult for many students, especially those who struggle with executive function or the management system of the brain that is responsible for our working memory, cognitive flexibility, and self-control. Another barrier, not knowing key vocabulary terms, which can be challenging for many students, especially those from different educational background. Facing social emotional challenges can also be a barrier, or feeling that a lesson isn't culturally relevant or academically interesting. All those are barriers that UDL aim to eliminate. As a framework, UDL requires educators to think proactively about the needs of all learners. In consideration of the UDL critical elements, educators implementing UDL should use background design instructional. Background design means that you have the goal in mind at the beginning. That incorporates the following 5 steps. Number 1, establish a clear understanding of the goal of the instruction and specific learner outcomes, or in other words, the big ideas we want learners to understand. Any potential misconceptions that could be barriers to learning, and finally, ways to clearly communicate all of that to the students. Number 2, anticipate learner needs, such as strengths and weaknesses specific to the topic of instruction, background knowledge, preference for expression and engagement, language preference, cultural relevance, and any other curriculum barrier, physical, social, cultural, or ability level. Number 3, outcomes and assessment plan. It is about how we are going to measure learning. We are embedded, have we embedded checkpoints in the instruction to ensure students meet their learning goals? Have we provided multiple ways for students to demonstrate understanding? Number 4, instructional experience. Did we use various instructional tools to introduce new knowledge? And how about engagement? Did we provide a variety of methods to engage students, such as incorporating digital tools and technology out there is amazing? and use self-assessment and reflection. I use reflection and self-assessment in my courses all the time. Number 5, reflection and new understanding. That is for us. Here we ask ourselves, did it work? Have the tools worked well? How do we might do to improve the lesson? I will stop here for a minute and ask you a question. And please put your answers in the chat. Let me ask you, who do you think is the expert learner? Think of your students and type in the chat some characteristics you think expert learners have. I'll give you a minute. Use their skills.
Good communication, I can say.
Information literate and independent. Maintains the time.
Maintaining time.
Yes. Creative brainstorming skills. Can break down any problem easily. Skills acquired.
I think we're seeking for an angel, not just a student.
Good listeners. Well, these are all things that we think about.
Good, yes.
High ability to socialize, communication, transfer learning. Great. Let me tell you what UDL thinks about that. Well, generally, an expert learner is someone who is just really good at particular skill. Like you all said, brainstorming, communication, and has always been. Educators tend to favor students who quickly learn new patterns, like you said, quick listener, quickly pick up new skill. I too thought that expert learner is just a label for those students who are able to quickly demonstrate mastery of knowledge. Expert learner, according to UDL framework, are those who acquired, now let's pay attention to this, who acquired the knowledge of how they learn, what motivates them, and who are constantly seeking to improve. So they know how the best way for them to learn. Because if that information, if that knowledge is lacking, they will not be able to learn, even if they are fast learner. Because if you give them, if they are a visual learner and you give them a book to read, they might not learn well, right? So expert learner are strategic, resourceful, and motivated. All right, I will ask you one more question and please type your answers in the chat. Let me ask you, who do you think is the expert instructor? Again, type it in the chat and let me see how you define expert instructors or educators. Now you think about yourself. Resourceful, motivational.
I like the understanding the needs of all educators and the needs students. It's a good one.
Yeah. Skills.
Articulate, engaging.
Engaging students. Now let me talk about expert learner. The first step expert instructor do is to clarify the goals or the destination of the lesson. If lessons are overpacked with goals, it can be overwhelming. So the first step is to identify the primary goal. Number 2, reflect on the different options students have to reach that goal or to achieve that goal. Number 3, find one tool, resource, or strategy they can include in their lesson to help reduce the barriers so that students can achieve the learning goal. They can achieve the learning goals. Number 4, find ways to make this strategy available to all students from the start of the lesson. And number 5, ask students for feedback. We sometimes find it really hard to ask students for feedback. How do you think the lesson goes? But here we do that all the time. How do you think this lesson goes? Was the lecture helpful? Ask student for feedback. Number 6, for example, imagine that after you model how to solve a math problem, some students struggle to remember the process for solving this kind of a problem. The barrier here is that the lesson requires students to process and work with a lot of information at once. To reduce the barrier, you could create a short video highlighting the key steps to the process maybe, or you could provide a graphic organizer outlining the steps. So CAST defines assessment. Let's talk about the assessment and how we design assessments. CAST is the UDL kind of organization. They define assessment as the process of gathering information about a learner's performance to make educational decision. I want to see the assessment are for me to see how the student perform so I can make the decision if they pass or not. How can we use UDL framework to design assessments regardless of whether we teach in person or online? We do it by designing assessments alongside learning goals so that you can ensure you are measuring the intended goals of your learning experience. We need to ask ourselves, are my learning objectives or goals clear? Does the assessment reflect and measure the intended learning goal? I cannot have a learning goal and an assessment that's completely measure something different. That is very confusing to our students. Or are there any additional components or skills that are also being measured by my assessment? If the learning goal says something and I'm measuring so many things, that could be very confusing. Whether we teach in face-to-face setting or in a remote learning environment, we need to ensure that the assessment can be personally relatable and culturally relevant to our students. Here we ask ourselves, did the assessment engage the students in understanding the relevance of the content? Are there any opportunities we can provide for the students to apply new knowledge to new situations? This is the goal of any learning, applying the knowledge to the new situations. Assessing engagement is essential for learning as it encourages reflection. So students have the opportunity to assess their own learning. Here we need to make sure that we assess our student engagement and look for strategies to support them. One time after giving her students an assignment to work with on class, a professor started to notice that many of them picked up their phones to start deviate from the task at hand. So what did she do? She called out a couple of students, volunteers, to summarize the task and what they need to do. Hearing it from their peers or in their peers' language got the students back on task. Formative assessments are meant to check the student's progress toward a specific learning goal. Its purpose is to drive instruction. Formative assessment may include reflection questions or exit tickets, a portfolio collection, or a quick poll. Formative assessment can be incorporated in any learning settings, face-to-face or remote. Assessments often have additional barriers or challenges for learners that are not connected with measuring the intended goals. Where possible, reduce the barriers that do not tie to the learning goals you want to measure. For example, options such as practice assessments, review guides, flexible timing, assistive technologies, or support resources can be made available to all learners. And I want to ask, maybe think about that. How many of you do give their students a chance to redo assignments? UDL is really big on giving them time and chance to redo their assignments. In any assessment, we can anticipate variability in how our students engage. or how they are prepared and can show what they know. Flexible options enhance access, reduce perceived distractions, and ensure all learners are available to demonstrate their skills. For example, assessment should reflect the learner experience. Just as we use UDL framework to design our lesson, the UDL principles provide multiple means of engagement, representation, action, and expression should also guide the design of our assessments. Both formative and summative assessments can be used to reflect on the purpose and effectiveness of instructional materials and learning strategies. Collaborating with colleagues around these assessments topic, collecting and analyzing data is very important, discussing outcomes, examining challenges, and recommending solutions can be both effective and empowering. Let's take a look at some UDL assessment sample strategies. Number one, Socratic seminars. They are mainly based on discussions. After reading a selected text, students formulate their own questions to discuss with their classmates. Socratic seminars encourage critical thinking and text analysis. It is a student-centered. As instructor acts, you are the facilitator here. In an inclusive classroom, encouraging discussion among students with various viewpoints help to build a strong learning community and drive engagement. The second strategy is video and audio recording. Instructors use recorded lectures, e-textbooks, so why not allow students to use recording and videos to express the learning? Some students are better at talking about what they know about a particular topic than they are able to write about it. Presentations is another strategy. Whole class discussions may be difficult for some, pre-questions. Let me talk about pre-questions first. Pre-questions is a good strategy. Whole class discussions may be difficult for some students and could even cause anxiety. You've probably seen that or experienced that. Processing what everybody is saying could be hard for some students. When we provide students with the discussion questions beforehand, it gives them the opportunity to formulate their answers. And a good tip is to include the discussion questions in the syllabus or on the class website. We also use rubrics. We use rubrics for assignments in a list form that shows parts of the assignments and the points of value. Some students may have difficulties with the time management and may need help figuring out how much time each section will take. Have you thought of a pie chart rubric? You know how a pie chart shows how big each task is? It offers a visual for students and helps them break down long assignments and plan ahead. Microsoft Excel is a good program for creating pie charts or any chart making app. Using templates is a strategy I use in my courses all the time. I noticed that students have difficulties setting up the format for written assignments. So I provide them with a template for the component of the paper, and all they have to do is fill out the sections. Some assessment strategy we concentrate on is multiple means choice, right? Giving student choice drives engagement. It is a theme that is embedded in UDL framework. Think about instead of assigning written assignments all the time to provide your students with a checklist of options, each with varying value point. So your students must complete at least 100 points worth in any combination. Like for example, I would tell them that you have to complete 100 point at the end of the course. Paper is equal 30 points. Presentation is equal 20 points. A video recording is equal that. They can choose as long as they give me the 100 point at the end. that gives them the choice and motivates them more to learn. Group projects are a good alternative to traditional assignments. They work best with project-based assignments. They will be even more effective if you let students decide the role of each person in the group. Who will be the group, the project manager, who will be the writer, that kind of thing. They would, as long as they have that choice, they would be motivated to complete the assignments. Providing assignments in the form of a real world scenarios that are directly related to careers or the workplace is another valuable way to engage students. Encouraging students to create learning journals, either on paper or digitally or maybe blogging. My students blog all the time. I ask them to add their reflection on every unit that we learn. And these gives me the idea of what they comprehend, what they did not comprehend, what do I need to concentrate on, or things that they already know I should just not include it next time. They reflect on their learning, and if you can make it interactive and comment on these reflections, the benefit would be even more. The fifth, I don't know if we have the IRS, what we called IRS questions. It's the term was coined by Kluth and Danaher in 2010, I believe. They suggested adding to your assignment a list of reminder questions as the IRS reminds you to double. IRS is when we do our tax return. In the form of the tax return, they include questions such as, have you checked that your information is there? Have you checked this and that? So taking that example, if you include questions in your assignment, such as, have you checked that your citation follows the APA guidelines? Or did you add the in-text citation? Have you checked your spelling? All of these questions would help students finish the task effectively. Technology and UDL. What made UDL possible is technology and the availability of all the digital tools that we have these days. The guidelines of UDL advise flexible learning environment that can accommodate learning differences. We don't all think or learn the same, so why should we expect our students to all do the same to show what they know? Because of this educational mind shift, the number of apps and cross-platform software programs available to students and teachers is growing at an amazing rate. Whether your students are using Blockster to create interactive posters that replace the traditional trifold, Educreations to give a voice to and video to their content, LifeBinder to collect sources online and organize them into conventional digital binders, or infographics to organize their ideas in a visual manner. And I can show you an example of all of these at the end. There are some fantastic tools to explore, and I will talk about some of them. According to the Association of College and Research Libraries, an information literate individual can do 5 things. Number 1, determine the extent of information needed. That include being able to identify the potential source for that information. Number 2, access the needed information effectively and efficiently, and be able to design effective search strategies. Number 3, evaluate information and its sources critically and be able to summarize the main ideas. Number 4, incorporate selected information into one's knowledge base and accomplish a specific purpose. This means applying prior knowledge to the planning of a particular product and combine that with the new information to produce something original. And number 5, understand the economic, legal, and social issues surrounding the use of information. Also, access and use information ethically and legally. So what are the barriers to determining information? Let's talk about how to apply UDL principle to each of these abilities. I will talk about the possible barriers, the solution, and technology application for each. Most of these strategies work for both face-to-face and remote learning. Determining information needs. Some learners struggle to develop insights into main ideas that form research questions, and we have all seen that if we are teaching research to students. They find it difficult to grasp some of the concepts being read. Introducing assignment in the form of an open-ended question only could be problematic. I'm saying that because some students work best when they have strict routine, while others like to be more spontaneous. So what are the solutions? Provide multiple entry points to a lesson and optional pathways into the content. For example, exploring big ideas through artwork, literature, or film even, and media. Open the floor for group discussion and sharing of ideas. At the beginning of any research project, that's a good practice. If the whole class would talk about ideas so they can get ideas from each other. Introduce graduated scaffolding. Organizing information can be quite challenging, especially when learners are asked to do so without prompts that help them understand what key points are. For grade school students, a look around you exercise may be helpful. We do that with the younger learners. We ask them, wherever you are, look around you. Find one thing in your immediate field of vision that you can't explain. What is that you don't understand about that thing? What is that you need to find out so that you can understand it? For college students, or for example, I use this with my AP research course, and I give students a template to help them form research questions, a fill in the blanks kind of template. There is a problem in or with blank. This problem has negatively impacted blank, and they can fill all of that, people or areas, because, and then blank again, a possible cause for this problem is blank. Perhaps a study which investigates blank could be a solution. So when they get that template, they can form a research topic, and then they have the problem, they have what is the fact, they have a possible solution, and they have a way to investigate it. So that helps them create their research project without any difficulties. What are the technology tools that can we use? Technology gives many opportunities to customize education to meet individual needs. Some of the tech tools I found to be helpful is Microsoft OneNote. Microsoft OneNote is a note-taking application, comes with Microsoft Office, and think of it as a digital version of a physical notebook. It allows for multi-user collaboration. It gathers users' notes, drawings, screen clippings, and they can even add recorded comments. Notes can be shared with other OneNote users over the internet. And they can be shared with the instructor as well, who can put feedback on what they are working on. Mind Maps is a digital graphic organizer app. It helps students visualize ideas, make charts and diagrams. I would also like to mention Chrome Accessibility Extension. This is for your special needs students. It helps students to create their ideal browsing experience tailored to their individual abilities and preferences. There are many extensions such as zooming feature, read aloud, dark mode. There is an extension called the Mercury Reader that clears away the clutter from all of the articles that they read online. Some of the tools to help students evaluate information critically. The key to developing good comprehension skills is the ability to detect core concepts and to understand how supporting details fit into a larger conceptual framework. It takes effort. For technology application, I suggest the Google Forms. It is a free survey tool and part of the G Suite for Education that allows collecting information from users. It could be used before instruction to survey students' prior knowledge. Also, one of the really good sources to verify information is online encyclopedias, such as Encyclopedia Britannica. There is a free version, but of course, it's a prescription-based. It offers general knowledge in many formats, such as articles, biographies, videos, and images. Many learners struggle with organizing information, making connections, seeing important patterns or themes that repeat in learning materials. Learners' communication styles and strengths are different. When avenues of expression are restricted by any given parameters, it can deter students who may not feel comfortable participating. They are afraid to make mistakes in front of their peers or maybe having oral language difficulties. Solution to that: use multiple tools for communication. Software programs such as Prezi, Powtoons, which is a free animated video, are some suggestions. And again, I will show you these tools at the end. Set guidelines for planning and progress and encourage students to design their own planner using templates from a Word document maybe. There is a planner app that was suggested to me called iStudies with a Z for iPhone and Android. Use templates. Again, for some students, setting up the format for a written response is a highly cognitive task. I suggest supplying students with a template that contains the sections required for the assignments. If more support needed, maybe add sentence starters. Again, I suggest Microsoft OneNote is a useful program for organizing information. And there is an app that I use all the time called Explain Everything. It is one of my personal favorites. It is an app that allows students to communicate their knowledge using images and voice recording. I do that when I have a student who's struggling with assessing something online. I would just make a very short video explaining the steps one by one. Really helpful app. Learners are generally varied in the ways they process and understand information. Language related to copyright and fair use is laden with technical terms, rendering the text inaccessible even to students without learning disabilities. Solutions: promote expectations and beliefs by clearly teaching and scaffolding goal-setting strategies. Create cooperative learning groups to foster collaboration. New behaviors can be acquired by observing and communicating with others. Optimize value and authenticity by providing reminders, guides, checklists that focus on self-regulated goals. Students usually plagiarize when they don't know what to do. So give them all the information they need to know what to do. That would and also encourage self-reflection. What was your learning about? How was it? Of course, I suggest citation programs for this skill. Programs such as RefWorks. It is a web-based bibliography probably available in most academic libraries and databases. A database manager that allows students to import references from text files or online databases and other various sources. There are many other programs available for free online citation and that's, I think, Citation Machine and that kind of programs. They're all available for free. Turnitin is another program which is originally, this is a subscription based, but is an originality checking and plagiarism prevention program. It checks students' writing for citation mistakes or inappropriate copying. Most learning management systems like Blackboard, which I use, and Canvas have that feature. I always enable that feature so my student know if they plagiar. It's not plagiarized, but if they copied without citation. Your paper has 70%, 20%, 30% copying from another paper. So that originality report is always available to my student before they even submit the assignment to me. The sample lessons are provided. These sample lessons between the difference between traditional and UDL lesson plan is provided by Vanderbilt University. When designing lesson plans, we need to look at the barriers regarding the goal and the material, the methods, the assessments, then design lessons that align with UDL principles. For materials, the UDL lesson include print, video with captioning, images with audio descriptions, and if applicable, artifacts that could be touched. The traditional lesson depends only on the print textbook. For instructions, the UDL lesson delivers instructions in a variety of ways, such as whole group discussion, small group with teacher, small group with other students, and small group with individual activities. A traditional lesson usually includes whole group discussion and independent work. Each UDL lesson would include an assessment strategy during whole and small group instruction, accompanied by corrective feedback. Traditional lessons usually assess at the end of the unit with a benchmark assessment. These are the final words to summarize what Universal Design for Learning is. UDL presents a compelling alternative to standardized one-size-fits-all model of education. The idea is to provide tools that would amplify areas of strength and support areas of weakness, specifically chosen and set up for each learner. Think of the word processor and spell checker, which is a learner, which for a learner who had great ideas but had difficulty with handwriting and spelling could enable the writing of a coherent paper. Then think again how these tools helped all of us, all of other students, helped us even, saved us a lot of time, and made finishing tasks less time consuming. I will end with a departing thought borrowed from Whitney Rapp, the author of the book Universal Design for Learning, 100 Ways to Teach Learners. She says, ability and disability are socially constructed concepts. We, as a society, decided what makes someone able and what makes someone less able. Since we created these definitions, we can also change them. The time has come to change our definition of disability. I would leave you with that. Let me, before I end and say thank you, I have a website, all the sites that shows the tools that I was talking about. Let me bring them. Give me 1 minute. They are Lobster. This one is Edu Creations. It is about the you can create video, students can create videos and put sounds to it. It's a very good site for showing learning. Blockster, this one I used with my students. It's a poster, but it's an interactive poster instead of that trifold one that students use to show their projects. They use that. They can click on links. They can add images. They can add recording. It's a really good tool also. Life Binder is the same as, like, you know, the big thick binder that we use. This is a computer binder. Let me pick that out. Computer binder. You can create as many tabs as you want. You can put subjects I can put the link. Yeah, of course. I can add the link to each one of those. Let me do that right now. Copy. This is for educations. Copy. This is for Glockster. And this is for Live Binder. I use that all the time. Sorry, I'm looking. This is for Live Binder. And over here, I have, this one is the PictoChart. PictoChart is for infographics. Students can use that to create infographics. I'll send that too. Explain everything. This is an app though. I don't think it's available as a computer program, but it is, I believe, on iPhone, iPad, and Android app. What else do I have here? Remove that. Oh, this is Prezi. I don't know if you know Prezi or not, but Prezi is a really, I'll send you the link with the some of Prezi projects or examples. It's a nice presentation, nicer than PowerPoint, and it's very engaging. Powtoons. This is also a very engaging presentation tool. That over here. iStudies, this is the planning app that I was talking about. You can recommend it to your students who have time management difficulties. And that says this is all. Let me, before I end, I will tell you a story that was when I was researching UDL, one of the researchers told us. It was a story about a king who wanted to, he wanted the architect to build the shortest route from his palace to where he meets with his deputies and all of that. So he got all of his people together and he said, I want you to build me the best way to go from the palace to the meeting place, and I want it to be the best. And he got every architect in the kingdom, and then he settled on the 3 best. So the first one looked at the palace, looked at the meeting place, and he said, our king is very busy, and the best way from the palace to the meeting hall is the shortest. So I'm going to build him the shortest way that would be the best for him. The other one came and looked to the right, and he said, oh, our king has a very beautiful garden, and he's a very thoughtful king. I would build him a way that goes through the garden, so while he walks there, he can think of all the kingdom affairs and all of that, so he will be prepared for his meetings. The third one looked to the left, and he saw the mountains and the hills, and he said, oh, our king is very fit, and for him to stay strong, he needs to be active. So I'm gonna build him a way around those mountains so he can be active and stay strong. So when the 3 of them presented their roads or ways to the king, everyone was waiting to see who's the best. Guess who was the best? The 3 of them. He said, this is amazing. When I am in a hurry, I'm going to use the first one. When there's something really I want to think about, I use the next one. If I feel like I need to work out and I feel like I need energy, I would use the third one. This is the same exact way that UDL gives us. It is giving students all the ways and then they would take whatever fits their need. And I would say thank you with that. And I hope you enjoyed it. These are some of the resources that I use if you are interested in the subject.
Perfect.
And thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jihan, and thank you for this wonderful story at the end. So I think it's better than to reach the end of the journey, just enjoying the journey itself, whether it's from the short cut or from the garden way or the within the mountain. So I like the story, and it's summarizing the way that the researcher is supposed to think about it. It's important to take a decision and to think about the way that you need to, and also for the learner. I would like to confirm my really appreciation for you for give this such outstanding and informative
Thank you very much.
webinar. This is not a compliment, it's really, I enjoyed so much, and I think more, and there is hundreds of attendees here, which is, I think, reflecting that it's a very interesting and very excellent session. And I would like to start or warming up the question from our attendees, which I encourage them to write down the question, just to take as much as we and as many as we can from the question. So please write down the question that you need in the chat box, and me and Dr. Jihan will write it carefully and in a very articulate way, and then answer it. I will start, as I said, that warming up the question with the question about here in the region, the Arab region, that we have universities with a huge number of students. So do you think, Dr. Jihan, the UDL approach will be suited for this huge number? This is the first one. And the second part of the question, is it cost more comparing with the traditional learning or teaching approach?
Well, let me answer your first part. Especially with a large number of students, where you cannot differentiate for each one of them, UDL would be the most effective, because the lesson will, the options will already be built in your design of your instruction. So you don't need to do anything, any differentiation, any accommodations for your students. I think it's best suited for a large number of classes. It takes, I have to say, it takes quite some time in the instructional planning, but once you get that done, and they usually do encourage educators to start with one thing, maybe how the lectures are presented. I know you teach face-to-face all the time, but how about you also provide your students with a recorded video? Record a video for your instruction and then have that ready. Or maybe with your book, you can create a slideshow or a PowerPoint presentation that they have, so they can hear the lecture and then go back. If there's anything that they missed, they can go back to the PowerPoint or the PDF that accompanies that with the main points. I know it takes a lot of work, but once you get the work done, you will see how your student will perform. It worked actually better with big number of students. And cost, the cost would be in time, maybe the time spent. A lot of open source software out there. I know there was a question about open source citation software. I have to look for that. I don't have anything in mind right now, but there are a lot of open source, and the open source movement is growing. There are many open source software that are available that can help you in designing that. So I don't believe the cost is in money, but maybe effort and time.
Thank you, Dr. Jihan. We have, actually, we are welcoming Dr. Saif Al-Jabri is attending, and he's sending his regards to you, Dr. Jihan. So we have a question from Susan. She said that she wants to know, is there a courses in UDL, like open source or free courses for this one?
I would check, I would say check CAST, C-A-S-T. They have a book. They have,
Okay.
and it's free. And they have demo lessons. They have many examples, and you will learn a lot. And then, of course, I put some books over here that I use, but CAST is the best way to go first. They have everything.
Excellent. Excellent. Okay. So we have. They said that a flow of questions. So we have a question here for that if they have these free courses, okay. But I think I try to get from Susan's question a big question about that. To have workshop to train on this approach, what you recommend about this one? Because we need to train educator as well. Are you agree with me?
Yeah, of course, we need to train that. The way we did it is that we created, I mean, the educators, we created like a collaborative group that learning communities more is the better word for it, and we self-studied all of that and we collaborated in our lessons. I think it can't be a one person effort. It has to be collaborative. So maybe departments or people who teach the same course can get together and try to create the or apply the principles one at a time. But I haven't seen, I've seen presentations. YouTube is full of videos about UDL. And as I was saying, CAST gives you all the information that you need. The book and how the lesson plans look like, examples. So I would start with that and then see where it goes from there. I don't think you would need anything else.
Perfect. Okay, so we have here Dalal. She's saying that students have difficulty to paraphrase, so their paper will be full of direct quotations. So what's your advice? I think this is something beyond the
I would, no, it
UDL, but
isn't.
at least how, let me rephrase the question with excusing Dalal on that, how you DL will help to what we call it just help the students on this challenge.
We give them a lot of examples. And as I mentioned before, I used to give my student templates, something to fill out. Like when they we don't know how to paraphrase, I would model it. That's one thing. Model it for them. This is number one. Number two, I would give them an example to keep at home. So when they go back from the course where I modeled, they can follow the example. Number three, I would give them a blank, fill in the blanks kind of format that they can use to help them paraphrase. Yeah, I know this is the hardest thing because they plagiarize right away when they can't do that. But I would believe modeling is the best thing, and then give them examples, many examples in different disciplines.
Okay, thank you. We have here from Ala Abdullah. He's saying that textbooks, slides, online courses, all are parts of the UDL and lecture as well. So the question, I think, your question, he said that which type of these will be suit for the UDL textbook or online course or slides, or the integration of those together will be
The
perfect.
integration of all of those, all of the above, as they say. It's the textbook and the video recording of the main points of the unit of the week, and a PowerPoint that that put these in writing. So students who are readers would read the textbook. Students who are listeners who would listen to the lecture. Students who just cannot concentrate on a big textbook would take the main points from the PDF or the slides. So it's unfortunately all of the above, and this is the effort. This is the effort for UDL, but your students will benefit greatly. Like you would see how does that drive engagement, and at the same time have them access the learning that you want them to access.
Perfect. Do you think, Dr. Jihan, that this will make difference from social science to technological science? Which type of science that you think UDL will be more effective, or it's
I think UDL
equal?
would be effective for all. I mean, I'm in the social science field, but I have seen like traditional sciences using UDL because actually I would think they would benefit from UDL more than social sciences because they have all the experiments, all the steps. They have so many things that you need to pay attention to, all the vocabulary in medical science, for example, or in biology or the physics, all the terms or the steps to experiments. These would need to be, the vocabulary need to be put together. The steps need to be explained, not only in the textbook, but also in maybe a graphic organizer. I would believe it would benefit all kind of sciences.
Okay, good. Okay, so we have here questions. So how a librarian be able to use UDL to engage more and support learning with students?
Great. I'm a librarian, so I can answer that question.
Great, yeah.
librarians, first of all, think about your collection. How many format of collection do you have? Is your collection all in one format? Is it all written? Is it all books in a written format? Think about that. And then the reference question, the background information is very important in UDL. I have to ask the students, what are you looking for? How do you learn? What is your best way to get the information? What do you prefer? Do you prefer a book, or do you prefer a video, or do you prefer an ebook? I don't know if you have ebook collection, but ebooks now is becoming ubiquitous in our universities. So we use ebooks all the time. So reference questions and the collection, I would really emphasize on these two.
And I think cooperation between the librarian and the professor and the academic assistant should be something
professors
be
sometimes,
done.
and we all know that professors sometimes are hooked on the textbook. So I think the librarian would be the one who go the extra step to see what else is available. I know I've dealt with professors before, and I mean, I am one right now, but I've been in both fields. So it is, sometimes you're just hooked on one form and they don't want to change. So sometimes it's just the task of the librarian to find out what other formats and maybe suggest that to the professor. Professors usually, if you go to them with suggestions, they'd be more open than just asking them what else. They will not give you an answer to that.
Yes. Okay, so going back to the last question, I think Professor Amal make more elaboration and asking, should the student always use the anti-plagiarism software such as Turnitin? How would they get the sense of forming a correct English sentence without plagiarizing? That's good. Any tools you suggest? I think this is give the cure for the yes,
I know plagiarism is huge. That's true. Well, that's why we use that self-check plagiarism in our courses. The students know that they cannot hand in a paper that's 50-40% plagiarized. So we give them the chance to check it out before submitting it. And then they know, oh, there's something wrong I did over here. And of course, we have to emphasize more and more about paraphrasing and citation and quotation and how to put in-text citation. Yeah, sometimes there is no escape from putting a quote, but you need to cite it correctly. So citation management is important, and paraphrasing. I guess every librarian, I know we do the orientation every year, librarians do that. That could be part of it, like how to paraphrase. And maybe just collaborate with the professors who teach research or assign writing papers to give a lesson about paraphrasing. It's the most important lesson, and I don't think students before college know how to do it.
Perfect. Thank you, Dr. Jan. We have, I think, a very important question. All the important comes from attendees for sure. It's important. They are all important, but I think this one because it touches the issue of the people with special needs. It comes from Abdurraouf Al-Qadi, and he said that how is the curriculum presented to the person who is intellectually disability or has learning difficulties?
Well, how it depends on their, they call them IEP over here, individualized educational plan. It depends on what their educational plan. If I have students in my classroom that I know they have disability, then when I design the lesson, actually even without knowing that, when I design the lesson, I put these students in mind. Like for examples, what do they need? If they need extra time, then I would plan into my assignments to give extra time, to do redos, as I was mentioning over there. I give redos all the time. I had one student with disability who could not write a paper or write a paper in a completely different topic than what I asked for. We talk about it and I give them the chance to redo the paper. I know it's UDL is a lot of work. I'm saying that at the beginning, but you will get your students to where they need to be. So put the accommodation, whichever accommodation that they know of, plan for it from the beginning, from the instructional design, the start of the lesson. That would be the best way to do it.
Okay, and as you said that it's the difference from, I think, field to other, the type of the disabilities. So I think, but the all in all, just is very important just to give them the quality of having the courses and all the content.
Exactly, and some students, if they
Please.
are in self-contained, if we have a class of only disabled students, that would be different because the lesson
Yes.
must be designed to that. But UDL is designing for all, including students with disability. So
Excellent.
student with disability, like I was saying when I mentioned about the spell checker did not only help students who don't know how to spell, it helps all of us. So when we put this kind of accommodation into our lesson, it helps students with disability, but at the same time helps everybody else, make it easier for them.
Yeah, yeah, I'm totally agree with you. Especially my PhD, it was about bibliotherapy. So I dealt with schizophrenic patients, and I think engaging the people with disabilities or special needs with the community, it's more desirable. I think it is good.
Absolutely.
Comparing with just put them in the special classes. Let's give them a more engaging with the society, because they will go out of the university to the society. So we can bring the society to them within the university. We're glad that we have Professor Tharwat Al-Olaimi, and he's asking about, should librarians have a certificate or training course to be able to use UDL or a license for helping students using UDL?
No, they as I was saying, I haven't seen courses, but there probably might be courses out there. It's all self-taught. It's a set of principles that we need to adapt when we design our instruction. The way I did it is that I told my director that I'm going to apply UDL to my lessons, and we talked about that. We formed a group, and we started doing it one at a time, one principle at a time, and that's how it goes. Like I haven't seen like a diploma or something in UDL, but there are many resources out there that would help students. And I would put a proposal, like this is something that the university should know about. I put a proposal that this is what I want to adapt, because they want them to give you the time to do that too. It's time consuming. So I think a proposal to do it and time to do it would be it. I don't think there is like a certified UDL person, but it is more of a concept than it is a school.
Okay. I think we got another question. There is many thanks for you, Doctor, but I think we have a question here about the environment of applying UDL. Do you think, I think it's affecting somehow if we're talking about this to the Arab region comparing with the Western?
As I was saying, it takes a lot of time and effort, and you have to have a supportive administration also. So I'm not sure how does that work, but for us, I mean, for over here, when we propose something like that, we get the support, we get the time, we get the tools. I guess you need to advocate for something like that to get the resources that you need. And it's, I mean, the idea at the end is that to get our students to be good citizens, to have fulfilling careers and all of that. And this all works toward these goals. So I guess it has to be the support. You need to get the support from the university to do that.
Good. Okay, I think we get some questions related about that gaming or gamification within the
awesome.
UDL. Yes. So can you give more enlightenment on this, please?
Of course, game theory based on the rewards and engagement and fun. So yeah, absolutely. UDL is all about engagement. So it's like giving students badges when they finish something, giving them points, having them compete with each other, like we do team games. All of these things drive engagement and make them more eager to learn and help them achieve whatever you want them to get to at the end. Of course, applying game theory is amazing with UDL.
Perfect. Actually, we are committed to the time that you give it to us, Dr. Jan, so we don't need just to exceed this one. We do appreciate your, and just one comment again to confirm what you said at the beginning. Our session, like our webinar, like others in English, we insist to make it all in English, and even that we put this transcript down there just to help to read it as well. It's totally different from other webinar that already with the two language. Here we need to adapt or absorb the terms, and also to have this sense of hearing and communicating with this one, even in writing. So again, I'm just confirming that it's on purpose just to having in this one, and we are happy that Dr. Jehan agree with us. If you just give more elaboration on this one, because this is one of the main things that I believe in it, with all respect for making in two languages at the same time. Please, Dr. Jehan.
Thank you so much for giving me the chance to present. And as I said at the beginning, when I present UDL, you would be looking for UDL to expand on your knowledge. And as your question was saying, you know, all of you want to learn more about it and maybe adapt it. So if I translate that to another term, you will not find the appropriate information that you're looking for.
Yeah.
So I hope it was helpful. And if there's anything else I can do, let me know.
Thank you so much. And I need just give an announcement that we have the next week on 30th of June, another webinar. It will be about clouding in librarians. So I invite for sure Dr. Jehan to attend. It will be honor to us, and also all the attendees can register. And again, the certificate, and also we agree and we thankful so much for Dr. Jehan. We record this webinar with her permission, and we will upload it to our YouTube channel, Naseej Academy. And this is very appreciated from our side to you, Dr. Jehan. Thank you. And we got your word that we will have another webinar down the road. We know you are very, very busy in your time, so we'll not take too much time from you. With the promise that we will meet you again in another webinar. Thank you again.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for inviting me. And thank you for the attendees for spending all that time with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله في أمان الله.
عليكم السلام.
Okay. Bye bye.